Hey everyone, welcome back. You ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Well, today we're diving into the world of online gaming. Specifically, we're taking a look at clan culture through the lens of this pretty fascinating group called KMKZ.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, and we've got some really great source material to pull from today, some forum posts, some articles, even some interviews.
Sounds like a great mix.
It is. So before we really get into it, let me give you a little taste of what we'll be uncovering. We're going to talk about this clan's unusual name, KMKZ, and what it says about their play style. We're going to uncover their origin story, which is actually rooted in a rebellion against something they call the loot whore mentality.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, very colorful language there. But what's even more interesting is how they've built this strong sense of camaraderie and respect, despite having players from all over. I mean, we're talking French-Canadian, English-Canadian, American.
That's pretty impressive, especially in the online gaming world where, things can get pretty heated.
Absolutely. So let's start with the basics, right? What's in a name? KMKZ, if you haven't guessed already, stands for Kamikaze.
Makes sense, right? I mean, when you think kamikaze, you think aggressive, fearless, all-out attack.
Exactly. And that's exactly how they play in PUBG, or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. It's a battle royale game where basically the last person standing wins. So being aggressive can be a real advantage.
It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy for sure, but when it works spectacularly. And that seems to be KMKZ's whole ethos. Go big or go home.
Now, this aggressive playstyle isn't just a random choice. It's actually deeply connected to their origin story, which is where this loot whore thing comes in.
Right, so tell me more about this loot whore rebellion.
Okay, so the founding members of KMKZ, there are three of them, Steve-O, Pablos, and Crushed. And apparently they were all part of another clan before they decided to go their own way.
Oh,
well, they were all getting increasingly frustrated with their old clan's mentality. It was all about looting, hoarding supplies, and playing it safe. And according to them, it really came to a head during one particular match.
Oh, I bet this is the story.
Yeah. So they're in the middle of a pretty intense firefight, right? And they're relying on their teammates to have their backs. But what happens? Their teammates are off in some other building, more worried about scooping up extra gear than actually helping win the fight.
I can see why they'd be upset. That's a pretty fundamental breach of trust in a team-based game.
Absolutely. It was a total betrayal in their eyes, and that was the final straw. They decided to ditch the loot whore mentality and form their own clan where teamwork and action were the top priorities.
And thus, KMKZ was born.
Exactly. It was born out of this frustration, this desire to play the game differently, more aggressively, more focused on the thrill of the fight than just racking up loot.
It's interesting, right? Because this story isn't just about gaming. I think it speaks to something we all deal with in life. Finding people who share your values, people you can trust.
I totally agree. It's about building communities that uplift you, that challenge you in the right ways. And KMKZ seems to have nailed that, especially considering how diverse their members are.
Right. I mean, French-Canadian, English-Canadian, American, you don't always see that kind of mix in online gaming communities.
Yeah. And apparently, language hasn't been a huge barrier for them. They've developed this whole system of in-game callouts and signals that everyone understands regardless of their native language.
That's really cool. It speaks to a certain level of intuition and understanding that comes from playing together a lot. It's like they've developed their own language.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But getting back to their play style, this hot dropping thing sounds insane. I mean, landing the most populated areas, immediately engaging in combat. That takes some serious guts.
And skill. Don't forget the skill. They have to be incredibly good at the game to pull it off consistently.
Right. So what are the tactical advantages of playing this way?
Well, one thing is that they're constantly sharpening their combat skills. They're always in the thick of it, facing off against other skilled players. This constant pressure forces them to adapt, to think on their feet.
It's like trial by fire, right? Only the strongest survive.
Pretty much. And it also puts immense pressure on their opponents. I mean, imagine you're just trying to loot up, get a feel for the match, and suddenly KMKZ drops right on top of you.
Yeah, talk about starting a match off with a bang.
Exactly. And I think that element of surprise, that constant aggression, is a huge part of their success. It keeps their opponents off balance, prevents them from settling into a comfortable strategy.
So KMKZ's story is about more than just winning a game. It's about creating a community, about sticking to your values, about embracing a challenge.
And it's a reminder that success isn't just about individual skill. It's about teamwork, trust, communication, and a willingness to push boundaries.
Absolutely. And I think that's something we can all apply to our own lives, whether we're gamers or not. So the next time you're facing a challenge, think of KMKZ. Think about the power of teamwork, the importance of shared values, and the thrill of pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone. Who knows? Maybe you'll even be inspired to start your own rebellion against the status quo.
Great point.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into KMKZ. It's been a fascinating look at the world of online gaming and what it takes to build a successful and meaningful community in that space.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for listening, everyone. And if you're interested in learning more about KMKZ, we'll be sure to include some links in the show notes.
Until next time.
See ya.